Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. And today I'm going to work on a reel that a buddy of mine who sells at a flea market actually gave me. I'd probably give it back to him. It was missing the handle. And what is it? It's a Master 260, but here's the interesting thing. It says Master by Penn 3-ball bearing reel. So Master actually owned Penn for a while. Master was a manufacturer of fishing rods. They bought Penn when Penn was not having a good time, and well, they developed this reel. And unfortunately, this reel doesn't have an anti-reverse. So we're going to see if we can give this reel a second chance. I went out and I found one of the handles in my bin that went from another reel that was broken and beyond repair. And I haven't been inside one of these reels, so I thought this would be fun. We'll see how this reel was made. We'll see what it compares to in a Penn reel. My guess is this reel was made in the 1990s. It's a long spool for long casting. The 260 is a 60 size, which means it's basically a saltwater or a deep water reel. And we're going to take it apart. We'll do some investigation, and if that anti-reverse can be repaired, well, it'll get a second chance. So we're going to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. As I do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. If you have, thank you very much. I appreciate your subscriptions and your viewership. Well, we can see inside here that it's been a while since this thing may or may not have been serviced. Looks like we got some accumulated dirt and debris in here. That's not stopping the reel, but it will at some point in time. I'm wondering if these actually aren't just spider webs. Kind of an odd thing. Not sure where it was stored. Again, I mentioned that the buddy sells at flea markets, but I'm not sure if he's bringing spiders home or not. But you never know, right? This is typical of what you found in a low-end reel. It's a plastic spool. It had a kind of a shoddy plating on it that wears off with the line use and rotation of the reel. But it doesn't mean that the reel can't be used. And well, we're just going to see what else goes next. Well, as I mentioned, I found a handle from some reel that worked. There was a video that I did. And it was on what should I do with these junk reels, because that's the way he described it. Say, I got junk reels here, I can't sell them, and maybe you can use them for parts. Well, if I can find a part from another reel maybe that was kind of destined to the same fate, then hey, we can get this one out there fishing again. So I'm going to start by taking this bottom case off now. And in order to remove that bottom case, you have to remove this little toggle switch. And I noticed that the toggle switch is way too loose here. There's something going on in here, but that's not controlling the anti-reverse at this point. And I'm not sure what the setup is, so until I get underneath that, I won't be able to make a determination as to whether we can fix this reel or not. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray, and a parts tray serves me so that I know next time, or when it is time to reinstall this, that I know where they are. I think I also have to take the top part of this off. We have a spool spacer here and a metal click. That metal click is your bait alarm. It's going to tell you when the line is running out on you. And yeah, so Penn had a good time for a while there. Then they started sending stuff overseas. In the 70s and the 80s, they ran into some financial difficulty. The brand had value, but the company was struggling. At one point, Master purchased them, and or merged with them, however it made it for a financial sense. And then the company was eventually acquired by Pure Fishing, and Pure Fishing has kind of restored the brand to what it was. And I'm going to have to do a little bit of some history work here to see exactly when this one was made. But my guess is 1990s. All right, let's see if I can get this off here. One of these. All right, this has an opposite threaded nut to it. That means that you you turn it to the right or clockwise to take it off. So it's not righty-tighty. In this case, it's righty-loosey. And well, let's pull this up. See what we got here. So normally we would have some kind of a spring. The spring is out of the socket. That's why this is loose. This little tag end of the spring here should go here in the post. And usually there's a spring. All right, there is an eccentric drive on this one for that spring, but this is rusted in place. That's why you don't have an anti-reverse. That relatively should be a simple fix. Let's load this up if we can with some penetrating oil. Let that sit for a moment. My take on this is that this popped out of the hole because, well, somebody was trying to force the issue here. That can be reset. And I'm going to continue with the internals before I come back. I'm going to let that penetrating oil do its work there, because if we do have any chance of getting this back to normal, it will be after that piece works and we get this out. This is the tag end of the spring that actually belongs there. I'm not sure what kind of damage may or may not have been done with that. At any rate, we will get an inside look at this reel, and well, we'll see if it can be restored and what we can do with it afterwards. Ideally, I'd like to give it away, make it one of those you can win this reel deals, but it belongs to, well, the fellow gave it to me, but we have a working relationship, and if I can restore them, I'll probably just give it back to him, but we'll see. I'll ask him. I'll see him soon. And let's just keep going down this path here. We're going to take off the 4 screws that hold the case assembly. This is, as best I can tell, a plastic case, not a graphite case, but I'm just making that judgment based on the plastic spool. And got the 4 out. Those 4 screws are the same, so they're going into my parts tray. I put them in a corner just so I know where they are. And here's our inside look at what this reel is. Hopefully it's our inside look at it. You need to, sometimes you need to use a wedge of some description. I'm using the knife for that. You do work with the knife. Just be careful. It is a knife. I haven't personally cut myself, but I can see how that can happen. A bearing. Instead of 3-ball bearing reel. This is actually a nice interior. I'm impressed. And again, it's by Penn, so they're probably taking the interior of their reels maybe from the oh, this would be early, so I would say the 100 series or something, the 105s, and adapting that possibly. I don't know. All right, we're going to remove the axle shaft. Take a picture. It's a good place to tell you, particularly if you don't know what the reel is, take pictures along the way. That way, if you stumble on the return, putting it back together, you will have that reference. With that screw out, we remove the axle shaft by pulling it through the top. And quite honestly, I'm not seeing anything here that says this is a bad reel. Probably would prefer a different type of case, but the reel itself is not in terrible condition. It is kind of screaming from lack of maintenance. Crosswind block. It's a traditional setup. Use your crosswind gear. It's held in by a screw. And when you do this, particularly if you don't know the reel, take the time to check all of the pieces and parts, which we'll do. And let's see if I can find a big screwdriver here. Well, the bearings are still working. They have a little rust on them, but they are still working. So right now, for the rust standpoint, I'm going to take a moment here and flood that with penetrating oil. We'll come back and lube it with something a little bit more substantial, but that penetrating oil is good for now. Okay, this is totally rusted in. Let's see what happens if we can remove the top plate. We can. And as I mentioned, this has an eccentric drive to it. That's going to drive the reel. This one should just come out. We'll put that back together, hopefully. We got a big bearing underneath here. It's still quiet, still turning. Credit to that. And the good thing appears to be that it's not going to need any parts. It's going to need some parts freed up. But, doesn't look like it's going to need the parts itself. Hopefully that one spring that is going to go on the eccentric can be reshaped. I'm going to take the 3 out of here. And this is a good time while I'm removing this. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll try to answer them for you. The questions don't have to be about this reel. It can be about any particular reel out there. Maybe you're working on something and you're stuck. Go ahead and ask that question and I will see if I can help to get you back on track there. Alright, we have 3 of these. These are steel screws. They're not stainless steel screws. That's an indication of the cost savings that the manufacturer made as a choice along the way. Alright, let's see if we can pull this up and out. We can, because there's really nothing there. And now it's time to, well, see if we can get this screw out. If we can't get this screw out, well, we're out. Oh, look at that. We can. So we have a rusted screw that was kind of holding this assembly back. It's working now. This probably should be aligned. This is going to be a return spring, but it probably got bent. So my guess is we want to just see if we can't straighten that out as best we can. And that's going to go behind the post here. Before I do that, I want to just take a moment to wipe off whatever dirt I can on here. And of course I want to reset that override. It's kind of flopping around there. Alright, well. Alright, so this little point on the spring here should push down. And I don't know if you can see this because I'm trying to do this for the benefit. Alright, that spring is broken. Let's see if we can't move this out of the way, pull this up and out. We have a broken tag on this. So that's an override with a broken spring. You're not going to find that spring now. But ideally what we would like to do is lock this in so that you don't have the override. And we should be able to do that with that spring that's on here. Okay, I'm going to see if we can't pull this out completely. That's one heck of a piece there. Move that dog off that post. Here's your spring. I think what I want to do now is just kind of grab a file, because there is a lot of rust on here. Grab one of the micro files. Knock the rust off both sides of this. Clean up that post that it's riding on. And lock this in now. So it's hard to see on this whether that's an intentional bend or if that's bent out, but it is going to go over the post like that. It's going to ride under here. And this will ride on the post with that hook grabbing that intersection there. And let's put some oil in that little slot. Let's see if we can get this to kind of trip. Alright, well that spring, I think we need to be a little bit more aggressive in rebending this spring. So what I'm going to do here is just hold the spring wire and pull back. Put some of the tension back in that. That should work. does work. What I'm trying to do now is get it over that. There's a shoulder here so that this spring doesn't ride under the dog. Right now I'm just trying to get it over that shoulder. Okay. Alright, if we put the dog in now, okay, we are getting that dog action now. Alright, well, we can't do much with the rusted top. I'm just going to start that. Take a look at our main, the main bearing has a inner race that's rusted to the post, and it's noisy. And it's kind of an open bearing that's been greased, so we're going to just, I don't normally grease the bearings, but we're going to use it here because we're in a position where there's not much you can really do with this reel. We're going to do what we can. And you know, regardless of whether it's noisy or not, if it does work the way it should, albeit noisy, then there's no reason in the world why this can't become a useful reel. You just have to put up with the noise. Alright, let's take this and put that back in. Probably should have greased the teeth. I'm looking at the teeth. They're all in pretty good condition. I didn't notice anything when I was cranking that said that that's a problem. You should inspect the teeth for uniformity, and you should make sure that they all have the same gaps, that they're not worn and the like. Well, here's how you tell that they're steel screws. They're magnetic. Stainless is not magnetic. Okay, we'll just put this assembly back. Then we got to play around with that other piece that apparently broke off or got damaged in the process, which is the eccentric spring itself. What I would like to do ideally here is to just bring this in. I'm going to take a glove off for this because it's starting to play a little bit. I want to clean the back end of this. Now this spring is going to sit in the up position, and it needs to be circular, and it needs to be tight around the inner ring on the bottom here. There's a race that it will ride in. I think that's going to work. Okay. Next step then, we're going to push the dog out of the way, bring the ring in, bring it over to the side where the dog is going to be, and align that with the slot in the dog itself. Right, with that in there now, let's tighten down the screw. And what I had to do is I had to take some of the tension off of that spring, so I just kicked the arm of the spring out. Now we'll bring it back under and around the post. And now we should have an anti-reverse. We do. See how it's operating now? We have that anti-reverse. Well, this is a little bit of a dilemma here. If I put this post in now, there's going to be an override to it. And it doesn't have the spring to control that. So I think I'm just going to leave that override off. Not sure if it makes sense to put that back in. But then again, if I leave it open, then I'm going to have a situation where the water can come in. Well, you know what? We're kind of saying this reel is just a project reel anyway. Let's stay with that. We're going to leave it off. All right. This will have a continuous anti-reverse. It will not have the override capability, but you know what? Every reel today seems to be that, right? All right. Let me just mop up this little bit. We have a terribly bent bail here. We'll have to fix that as well. Okay, let's take the time to clean up that main gear. Has some old grease on it. You can tell it's probably never been serviced. That looks like the original factory grease in there. Again, check all your teeth, make sure that they're okay. This one, well, it's clogged a little bit. So I'm going to take a hard brush and pull through on that to clear those channels. And let's re-grease. Let's work this from the back side of this first. Yeah, I'm certain now that that's factory grease. So whatever this reel was made, that's the grease that's still in there. You grease the oscillation gear on all sides. You're checking the teeth as you're going along, making sure that they are uniform as well. And the oscillation gear gets grease on all sides. Put that in, you lock that down with the screw that came with it. Now I had used penetrating oil to clean that bearing. I'm just going to put some regular oil on that. Now we can grease up the main gear. And we'll put that back in. We can bring our, well, this is a good example of what happens here. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to flush this out with water. I think we're going to glove up again here because, well, there's just a lot going on here with this reel. So let's get that glove back on. You've seen this movie before, if you will. We want to oil the seams of the bail. This bail looks terribly bent. And what the first thing we want to do is just oil the seams and see if it's dirt that's preventing it from tripping. We might be able to use it just as it is. Just work it back and forth. Seems to be loosening up, but it is terribly bent. All right, let's put this back on then. The rotor goes on. There was a double washer on there. Rotor nut can go on now. Remember, this is an opposite thread, so it's going to tighten counterclockwise. Make sure when you're putting this on that you're doing this cautiously. You don't want to strip the threads on the assembly. And it may take a couple of times to get that right. I still don't have it right. Make sure it's going on square. Now I got it. Okay. Let's tighten that up. Remember, it goes opposite. All right, now we want to take our crosswind block, complete with original grease. Clean it up. The back side's dry. This will only get greased on the back in that slot and on the face of it. Place that inside and make sure that the crosswind block goes over the stud in the crosswind gear. Next up, we will take the crosswind axle shaft, just a little bit of grease on that. line that up and bring that through so that you can mount that into the crosswind block itself. And that screw came along with it. That's what just bounced there. Put the screw in and align your hole so that you can put the screw in. Now we should be able to see the whole thing turn. And you're going to have that click, click, click from the anti-reverse. That's okay. That's the way it kind of works. File that side plate bearing. Put the case on. This is a good time before you put the handles on and everything to clean the case. You use a rod and reel cleaner here, Penn's rod and reel cleaner. Just get some of the flea market dirt and debris off of it. I use a kitchen scrubby for this. And if it can't reach the spots, I'll use a cotton swab. And we can go about putting those 4 case nuts back on. Remember when we took this off, we noticed that they were all the same size nuts or screws. So let's just go ahead and put them back in. You don't need to pay attention on this one in terms of what screw goes in what hole, but a lot of manufacturers will use different screws for different holes, so you do need to note those. Two more. So what did we learn so far? We learned that well, Master owned Penn for a while, and that they released reels, Master by Penn, to go along with their fishing rods. And that eventually that company got acquired by Pure Fishing, where they kind of restored the integrity to the brand. We had a lot of reels by Penn at this point. You had Jarvis Walker down in Australia was a Penn International brand. You had Roddy by Penn. You had a couple of other, let's call them imposter reels out there, if you will, and just kind of capitalizing on the Penn brand name. But at the end of the day, the Penn Reels still had some integrity, but the company wasn't doing very well. Needed partners, and well, this is one of the ways that the partners kind of recovered their money. They just sort of took advantage of the equity in the brand. Once you have it nice and tight around the side, come on back and grab your tie-down shoe here. Put this back on. And this is in the era of before instant anti-reverse, so 1990s. And I'll do some research, find out when Master actually owned the brand. It actually cleans up pretty nice. We do know that the fault here now is that anti-reverse override. Okay, handle goes in. And again, replacement handle for the reel. This reel came without one. And then we'll give this a test here because we want to see if that bail is going to fire just by working with a piece of the seams or something else. All right, there you go. It's working. It's got a second chance. Let's throw this bail out. Yeah, bail's working. Okay. Let's just take a quick look. My guess is that we have felt washers in here and they're probably frozen onto the metal. So let's take a look with that. If you have one of these, no shame, right? It's a solid reel. It wasn't an expensive reel, but it doesn't mean it can't go fishing and provide lots of opportunities to catch some fish. Yeah, we have Teflon washers in here, which is probably makes sense. Where are they? Now they're felt. Okay. This should be a 6 drag washer system. That's one. Here's the second. Here's the third. This one did get stuck to the metal. So what you want to do is make sure that your metals are clean and free of debris. That one is. Okay. With the felt washers, you want to make sure that you keep them lubricated. I prefer oil. You can use grease, but regardless of which one you choose, make sure that it's there. Felt washers have a habit of drying out. When they dry out, they become very susceptible to tearing, and if they tear, well, they're not of any use. So a felt washer, then the first of your keyed washers, that's the one with the rectangular center. Then the middle washer is an eared washer. It has studs on it. Those point down in this one. Last of the felt washers. And then I got to go pick up the clip off the floor because it just dropped. Okay, take your clip and insert that into the groove. Make sure that it's in the groove all the way around. And that's just a retaining clip. If you've lost your clip, as I almost did there, then, well, all that means is the next time you go to service the reel, the top may just drop all the drags. Clean around whatever is left on this spool. There's a little bit of wire left here. Grab that and pull that off. All right, let's put this back on and we'll give it a final test. So when this reel came in, it didn't have a handle. Oops, that was an oops. Gotta reinstall the bait alarm and the 2 shim washers for the spool, which are plastic. Actually, rusted plastic at the moment. And that's how that bait alarm works when your reel is letting out line. It's telling you that. So if you have this fishing in a rod holder with a light drag, it will alert you that you're got a fish on. Tighten it down, make sure it holds, and I like to back this off because, well, that knob will act as a vise. It'll compress those felt washers. It'll drain it of all of the lubrication and it'll dry. Let's take a test then. There you go, working. Had one little skip there. I don't know what that's about. But that's your reel. That is your Master 260 by Penn 3-ball bearing reel. And surprisingly, other than that click, click, click of the anti-reverse dog, well, it's pretty smooth and pretty solid with the lubrication. Well, I hope you learned something from that. I did. I learned that the reel is actually pretty solid inside. It's unfortunate that we lost the spring for that override, but that's long gone in terms of having a parts availability to it. But other than that, this reel can go fishing. I hope that the fellow over at the flea market finds somebody that is interested in a reel. I'm sure it'll go at a cheap price, and you can set up a pole for them and let them take it fishing. I want to take a moment to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, and everybody who keeps us safe. And I want to thank everybody for watching. If you've been in it this far, thank you very much. This is one of those. It may not be the fanciest reel. It may not be the hottest reel on the circuit or the sexiest reel, but it does have a place, and now it has a second chance. Thanks everybody for watching. I wish you great fishing.